I'm Joseph-Lewkowicz with Coldwell-Banker Realty, and welcome to this month's edition of the Northwest Tampa Real Estate Report. I kind of want to give you guys an overview of what's happening in the real estate market today. Summertime was a great market. Interest rates have been remaining relatively low, 3.5% to 4%. They just haven't moved up, even though the Federal Reserve has talked about interest rates moving up on a consistent basis. Prices below $300,000 for housing is still flying out the door. Very low inventory levels. At above that, though, starting at $400,000, $500,000 and above, the market is slowing considerably, mostly because of time of year. If you're looking to buy a house, this is an excellent time. I was just running the numbers yesterday, and it turns out that the number of sales at this time of year are just about half of what they were, say, June, July market. The market for December, January there's half the amount of sales, which means that anybody who really needs to sell, houses are vacant, they need to get moving, good time to look at that market. One of the other things to think about, if you happen to have a house that you're selling and it is vacant, check with your insurance agent, because we've just run into that problem, to see whether you're covered. If you have to have a vacant home policy, or if you needed to give them notice. I had heard from one insurer that if you are out of the house for more than 30 days, that you may not be covered unless you have a vacant home policy, and let them know. And a lot of people selling a house that is vacant do not realize that. So overall, good time to buy. Interest rates are low. Prices have flattened out for the time of year. They'll start to continue upwards come March. They're probably, if we have the same amount of inventory levels that we have at that time, look for there to be a 5 to 8% increase in value again next year, which is what we had this past year. So with that, I'm ready to take some questions. Let's see if there's any coming up. And oh, here's up. Is the holiday season the best time to buy or sell in real estate? Well, I think I just answered that question. It is always the best time to buy. Best time to sell starts April, May, June, July. Those are our best 4 months. Good time to buy. If anybody, like builders, if they have any existing inventory, generally want to get rid of it. Many of the people selling have bought another house. They may be having homestead on one house and not the other. So it's a great time to make a deal with an existing seller, and they're probably going to be willing to make a deal. So now would be the time, from now through the end of the year, excellent time to get out there and look for a house to purchase. Are there quotas that realtors are trying to reach by the end of the year, leaving more room for compromise with pricing? Well, you know, every realtor wants to make their quota by the end of the year, but really we work with people selling, so they don't necessarily have a quota. However, new construction builders, until they get a house sold, their financing is tied up. So by the end of the year, so in other words, if they're left with 10 existing inventory, whether that inventory is to be completed 2 months from now, until they're under contract, they can't go get financing for building more. So they want to get those moved. So new construction's probably a good thing if you can find existing inventory. Although again, inventory levels are tight, but there are deals to be had out there. And I would think the quota system will apply more to new construction than it will for regular resale realtors. Is it harder to hire workers for remodeling purposes, carpenters, painters, during this time of year? I can't say that it's harder for the time of year. The biggest issues we've had is finding good handymen and or regular good contractors. Roofing contractors have been tough to get out there. So it's nice. Luckily, I have relationships with people that I've given a lot of business to, so they'll be in touch. They'll go out for me versus other, like just an agent who does 1 or 2 sales a year. They may not get the business, but it's very hard with the hurricanes that we've had, with the rains that we've had. with the hurricanes in Miami, with hurricanes in Houston. A lot of people have left there and gone to work for those places for the same reason that didn't get rid of the trees, the debris in a lot of the areas in Tampa, because they went down south. Same issues that we have up here. So if you know somebody, if you know a realtor who does a lot of business, they probably have some established contacts, and they'll be usually able to help you get something done now that you might not be able to at another time. So due to different weather conditions, what should be looked at closely in regards to the structure of the house? Drafts from windows, air conditioning unit there. Well, that's a great question. Double pane windows have become very popular, and a lot of people, I'm running into housing where houses built 1970 to say 1985. A lot of people are getting their windows redone. They're not cheap to do. So are they more energy efficient? Will you save money over the life of the loan? I mean, the life of the term of the house? That's one of those things that's hard to tell. But I can say that my opinion is, whereas they were not really popular before from a cost point of view. In other words, like we had a bid on a 2,800 square foot house with a lot of sliding glass doors, and the bids ranged from $34,000 to $52,000 to replace all of the windows and the sliding doors. Will you recoup that on the sale of the home? Probably not. But if you're going to live there for 10 or 15 years, you're going to save some in the electric. And then in that amount of time, so many of the new properties have double pane windows that you may not be able to sell a house unless you've done that. So that's the kind of thing to think about at this point in time. And I'm telling people to consider that. Would I put windows in or change an air conditioning unit that's working okay just to get the house sold? I probably would not. Your biggest cost advantages work out to be paint, carpet, things that are a one-on-one. If you're going to be there for 5, 10 more years, think of long-term. I would get that stuff done. You're going to save the electric. You're going to save on just peace and quiet in a home. And candidly, I put a roof on this last year myself. We didn't buy the cheapest roof. We actually got the most expensive roof we could. Then Hurricane Irma came through. I was thrilled to not have to worry about it. But I was also figuring that, in 10 years, the roof will still be really good, and I'll get the money out of, I'll get a little bit more money for doing that and not have to worry about it in the meantime. So which features of a house have a bigger benefit to buyers for the autumn-winter season? Heated pool, fireplace, fire pit. Interestingly, fireplaces, I think, you either really want one or you don't care as much anymore. Now, fire pits are becoming really popular. People who stage them right, depending on the size of the house, of course, and the price level. If you got a really nice fire pit, not really nice porch area, it's a very nice thing to have. Heated pool, somewhat. People like to go into it for longer. But I think that if you're selling a house and you stage the qualities that you have there, let's say that you've got a gas fireplace, make sure it's working, make sure it's on if you're showing the house. If you've got a fire pit, make sure it's on while you're showing the house if possible. It's going to make a huge difference, and people are going to go, especially if you're leaving the fire pit. Some of these are very small, but some are nice and large, and some are these outdoor fireplaces that have a grill area attached. Highlight all of that. This is the time of year where, because Florida is not really cold, the high temperature might be 80 degrees, might be 75. Great time to just be outside. If you've got some kind of view, if you can really open all the doors up when somebody comes by, makes a huge difference for what people will feel about the house. And that's really the best way to get the value out of that. What are the largest factors that drive away real estate business during this season? That's a great question. And depending on what you mean by drive away business, one of the things that we try and do is when people are looking at a house, are they when I'm trying to qualify somebody for buying a home, is the questions I'm asking is, what can you afford? What can you really afford? What are you willing to spend? Have you talked to a mortgage company? What's your time frame? Are you looking in the next 30 days, or are you looking for a year from now? I've got a couple people that have been looking for a house for 5 years. And seriously looking for 5 years. I just don't think they'll ever find it because nothing ever quite works. The biggest thing is going to be if somebody is looking for something in the next 30 days, you know, they're very serious. You need to get out there and do it. I was on a call earlier today. Guy just got an offer on his house. Bigger house, needs to buy something smaller, wants to make sure that he can find where he can move to before he makes the deal on that other one. And they kind of all tie together, and you've got to do the logistics on that. And you got to make sure there's enough time, because at the end of the day, he doesn't want to be out in the street and doesn't want to rent another house. So those are the kind of things that come up in dealing with real estate transactions, and they can be very tough to negotiate. So that's the kind of thing to look at. What are the expectations for the real estate industry in the Tampa area going into the new year? Are there certain styles of construction and or interior design that is expected to be popular? Getting more and more so all the time, again, depending on price range. Having a formal living room is less desirable depending upon the location than it was in the past. People like having a great room, but still like having a formal dining room because they may have, you know, big family coming over. Swimming pools on the resale market. I have a lot of people on brand new homes that will buy a house without a pool. And on the resale market, a lot of people, they've been transferred down from up north, and they'll say, I'm only looking at houses with pools. So generally a pool in a house that's a $400,000 or $500,000 price range, 2,800 square feet or so, a pool is going to be roughly $40,000 to $50,000 to put in. Are you going to get that? If you had to sell the house a year later, are you going to get that kind of money out of it? Probably not. But a lot of people, again, may not look at your home. Fireplaces, probably not as popular as they have been. Great rooms designs are popular. These outdoor fireplaces, fire pits are very popular. Just, you know, wood floors and this wood grain floors are very popular. Quartz countertops are popular. A lot of this kind of comes and goes. It's just really kind of hard to say what's going to stay around for years to come. That's going to be of value. And what are pricing averages like on homes in the area for the winter? Well, as I said at the beginning of this, and I'll kind of wrap up with this, the market flattens out at this time of year. Now, it doesn't really take a dip, maybe a little bit of one, but you're looking at in Northwest Tampa, and let's call that Bush Boulevard to State Road 54 and Pinellas County to Nebraska to US 41, roughly a little bit more than that. But this time of year, there were, I think, 906 sales done between September 1st and November 15th. Median price was $310,000 for the whole area. Median, I think, if I remember, I'm doing this from memory, median cost per foot was, I think, $146 a foot. But that's all price levels, no foreclosures or anything. That is an increase from last year of a median price of about $270,000. So you can see we've had a big upgrade. But the market will flatten out. I think we'll probably keep the same median price. We may even keep the same cost per foot, but the sales will most likely decrease to about 500, which is almost half. So that's why I said good time to buy, a little less available inventory to look at, but people who really need to make a sale really are encouraged to do that. And so if you want, feel free. My email address is joeluke@me.com. That's joeluke@me.com. Feel free to send me an email. Happy to answer any questions for you. and look for you guys next month in our monthly real estate update. Take care.